Walk through the surviving medieval villages of Europe and you immediately notice something that shouldn't make sense in the modern world. Timber houses that have been standing for 500, 600, even 700 years. Buildings constructed when kingdoms rose and fell have survived storms, floods, frost, pests, and time itself. Meanwhile, modern wooden homes, built with chemically treated lumber, often struggle to remain sound after just a few decades. The question that pulls every history buff in is simple. What did medieval builders know about protecting wood that we've forgotten? What trick allowed their houses to endure centuries without paint, tar, or modern sealants? For the next minute, hold on to that curiosity, because the answer isn't mystical, and it certainly isn't lost. It is hiding in plain sight, preserved in the craft traditions of carpenters who understood wood better than most modern professionals. Today, we're opening that toolbox and exposing the technique that let medieval timber construction outlive entire civilizations. Medieval builders started by selecting the right part of the tree instead of treating it afterward. The longevity of medieval houses did not begin with coatings or treatments. It began in the forest. Builders took only the heartwood, the inner older core, because it contains the natural compounds that resist rot. The outer sapwood, full of sugars and starches, was deliberately discarded or used only in places where rot wouldn't matter. Medieval carpenters didn't have chemical preservatives. They simply understood that heartwood from oak, chestnut, larch and fir could outlast generations if harvested during the low-sap months of winter. Modern construction often uses lumber milled without regard for heartwood percentage, but anyone today can apply this medieval principle. When building outdoor structures, fencing, tool handles, or even simple raised beds, choosing dense heartwood dramatically increases resistance to decay without a drop of chemicals. They shaped timber to shed water efficiently rather than allowing moisture to settle. Medieval builders knew that rot doesn't come from rain alone. It comes from water that lingers. So they shaped timber in ways that prevented water from sitting still. Horizontal beams were, beveled. Vertical posts had angled tops. Outer walls were clad so moisture ran downward rather than into joints. These details may seem simple, but honestly they are the foundation of a rot-free structure. By removing flat surfaces where water could pool, and by avoiding exposed end grain wherever possible, medieval carpenters kept moisture from ever gaining a foothold. Modern woodworkers can replicate this easily. Rounding post tops, sloping exposed cuts, adding drip edges, and avoiding horizontal flat ledges on outdoor projects immediately extends the life of the wood. They dried timber slowly and thoroughly before construction to lock in stability. A major reason medieval wood survived is that it wasn't used fresh. Timber was air-seasoned for months or years before being worked into buildings. Slow drying kept the internal fibres intact, reduced warping, and dramatically lowered the risk of fungal attack. Contrary to modern kiln-dried boards that sometimes crack because drying is rushed, medieval wood lost moisture at a natural pace, which effectively reduced the food sources fungi depend on. You can apply this idea on a small scale by letting boards that are destined for outdoor projects acclimate and dry for several weeks in a shaded, ventilated space. The longer seasoning time really pays off, giving you wood that stays tighter, stronger, and, well, more rot-resistant in the long run. They used earth-free foundations and elevated frames to break wood's contact with moisture. And if you look closely at medieval houses, one detail stands out. Almost no structural timber touches soil. Posts were raised on stone plinths. Sills rested on masonry. Walls sat on stone foundations. Medieval carpenters understood, quite wisely, that the fastest path to rot is contact with ground moisture. The separation between timber and earth was deliberate and consistent, and honestly, it is the single greatest contributor to the survival of these buildings. Anyone building outdoor structures today, whether it's a shed, a chicken coop, or a timber frame, can use the same logic. Raising posts onto pavers or stones, adding gravel for drainage, or installing even a minimal foundation barrier prevents the constant moisture wicking that destroys modern wood. They treated wood with natural oils and mild heat to enhance water resistance. While many folks think medieval builders used no treatments at all, that isn't accurate. They relied on natural methods, Carpenters warmed timber near low heat, allowing natural resins to rise to the surface. Into this warm wood they rubbed linseed oil, tallow, pine tar, or even fish oil. Heat opens the cellular structure, allowing these natural protectants to penetrate deeply. The result wasn't a superficial coating, but a long-lasting water-resistant barrier that hardened with time. Modern homesteaders and survivalists can, replicate this by gently warming wood in the sun or near a fire, not burning it, and applying boiled linseed oil or pine tar. Posts, tool handles, outdoor furniture, and timber joints benefit immediately from this ancient practice. They built for airflow because, dry wood is immortal wood. Inside medieval walls, air moved constantly. Gaps in cladding, ventilated attics, raised floors, and high roof pitches prevented moisture from stagnating. Medieval builders didn't try to seal wood, they tried to dry it. Ventilation, not coating, is what kept timber sound. This mindset translates perfectly to modern structures. Allowing airflow behind siding, using breathable materials, and making sure that outdoor furniture or structures aren't trapped against walls, it creates the same conditions that kept medieval wood safe for centuries. The survival of medieval timber proves the effectiveness of these forgotten techniques. The evidence is standing across Europe. Timber houses older than many nations have resisted rot because builders combined correct wood selection, proper seasoning, intelligent shaping, careful foundation design, natural treatments, and airflow. Chemical sealants are convenient but not superior. The medieval method doesn't wear off. It simply works. If this deep dive into historical craftsmanship brought value to your day, subscribe to Relic Logic and share this video with other history enthusiasts. The past still has lessons worth applying, especially when it comes to making wood last almost forever.